Welcome to Making Our Way Forward, a podcast where we share compelling life stories and learn from the experience of everyday entrepreneurs. At NACCE, we celebrate diversity and invite you to join the conversation as we talk to entrepreneurs and leaders from all walks of life. We hope that by telling their stories, we bring you inspiration, empower you to take action, and ignite entrepreneurship in your community. Welcome to Making Our Way Forward podcast. We're happy to announce that we are now in 400 US cities and in 29 countries around the world. So we want to thank our listeners. Today, we have a very special guest. She is coming to us from Northeastern Ohio. She heads up a foundation called the Burton D. Morgan Foundation, which we're going to learn more about today. We're going to talk about ecosystems, and we're going to talk about making change for the better. It's my pleasure to welcome Deb Hoover to the program summit.
Oh, thank you, Rebecca. I'm really delighted to be invited and delighted to talk to your viewers and listeners.
That's great. And I know you inhabit the area of philanthropic stewardship and leadership. And when I think about one of my favorite books, Good to Great, I think about the story of Stanley Galt that's embedded in Jim Cullen's book. And then my brain naturally goes to you and your foundation and the work that you do. So why don't we begin our conversation? Tell us a little bit about you, your journey into this work, and then share a bit about the Burton D. Morgan Foundation and some of the work that you're doing in Northeastern Ohio.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I just want to second that mention of Stan Galt, who he's among our stellar and wonderful trustees, and we're very grateful to him for all he did for the foundation. So I'm president and CEO of Burton D. Morgan Foundation. I've been in that role since 2007, and I've worked in philanthropy since 1994. I'm absolutely passionate about the field, and especially passionate about working at the intersection of philanthropy and entrepreneurship. It's a really exciting place to be. Entrepreneurship in and of itself is not necessarily a charitable activity, so it can be tricky business to wrap that charitable purpose, which we have to do working in philanthropy around entrepreneurship activities and ecosystem building that support entrepreneurs in our community. But even though it's tricky business, it's just really fascinating and very gratifying to be able to help entrepreneurs and the communities in which they work. I came to this work through a liberal arts education, and then I supplemented that with a law degree. Working in philanthropy, obviously there are a lot of IRS rules that need to be complied with, so it's really good to have that legal background. I think my favorite part of the job is supporting opportunities for students to wrap venture ideas around their passions and their studies, and then see a business come to fruition. I've been at this long enough, so I've seen undergrads experiment with ideas and start smaller ventures while they're still at college and university, and then watch them mature into, sustainable businesses and very, very capable entrepreneurs themselves. So it's just wonderful work, and I feel really privileged to be able to do it.
Yeah, I can tell you're excited about it. You kind of remind me of myself. Like once I start talking about it, it just lights up, my world, because I think what you said about, people can come into a profession and a passion from multiple different sources. And I think that's what I learned from you. I think when we met 6 or 7 years ago, and I had just started my job at NACCE, and I appreciated how always open you were to sort of sharing your journey and your mission. And one of the things that led us to together, talking about more books, is writing our book together, which you were a co-author of, Community Colleges as Incubators of Innovation. And as I was thinking about you yesterday, I went back to the book and I was rereading your chapter. And I just want to read one sentence of something that you wrote that kind of resonated with what you just shared, and I think is really important. Here at the Future Building Summit, we are so fortunate to have elected officials, Secretary of State from North Carolina, Senator Amy Klobuchar, who heads up the Entrepreneurship Caucus, and many, many leaders from other areas. But as you said, philanthropy can be a real driver of change, and it's not just necessarily charity. So real quickly, you wrote, philanthropic leaders have been key players in strategizing and experimenting for over more than a decade to reignite an entrepreneurial culture across the region. And I believe you were speaking about your region, Northeastern Ohio. And I know you came up with a graphic that you shared with us in the book, but maybe speak to us today about ecosystem building. I know the Kauffman Foundation generously sponsored our event today, and Philip Gaskin is going to share a little bit about his experience. But talk to us about what that means to you as a leader and to your state and your region.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to do that. Before I do that, it might be helpful if I just dive for a minute into like the core of the work that the foundation does, because I think that will really shed light on the ecosystem building work. So our foundation has been around for a long time. It was started in 1967 by Burton D. Morgan, who was an entrepreneur extraordinaire, started out in the adhesives business. The mission of the foundation that he started is to champion the entrepreneurial spirit, to contribute to robust entrepreneurial ecosystems, and serve as a leader in entrepreneurship education. We do that, as you said, primarily in Northeast Ohio, and then selectively on a national basis. And so we work with K through 12 students, we work on college and university campuses, and then help to support practicing and aspiring entrepreneurs. And ecosystem building is really at the core of all of that. Those are portfolios of grants and relationships that we have. We use those relationships to help strengthen the ecosystem, align metrics for the grants that we make across those different portfolios. And that really helps us to achieve collective impact. Burt Morgan was always ahead of his time. He really believed in the power of networking, and he did a lot himself to create networks of people who supported entrepreneurs. He was also keen for the foundation to focus its resources in a targeted geographic area. And of course, we do most of this work in Northeast Ohio. That concentration of resources really fits squarely within strategic ecosystem building. And that has really represented the work in Northeast Ohio over the last couple of decades to invigorate, the resources that we have and connect them across, cities and communities. So the foundation, I think, because of this work we do with a whole variety of grantees, we have a certain vantage point that allows us to see opportunities and people and organizations that should be connected. And so that's kind of the behind the scenes work that we do every day. Nobody really sees it happening, but we're on the phone, we're sending messages and making sure that, like-minded people get connected. And over time, I think that work has really paid off to sort of build that scaffold of the people and the organizations that are on the ground doing this work. It's not easy work. You just have to be thinking about it all the time and keep sort of a mental Rolodex going so that you can, on the spot, make those connections. But I think we've gotten really good at it, and it's something that I'm very proud of.
Yeah, you've gotten very good at it. And I think you also surround yourself with a wonderful team. I've been to your office and met your colleagues and met some of the organizations like Jumpstart and many, many others that have done this work. I remember this is a few years ago, you invited me to kind of see a chat that you had that, people from the ecosystem came in, and and this as a child, I grew up in Akron, Ohio. So I'm a native Buckeye, like many other people are, as I understand, Ohio is the gateway to everywhere else to some degree. But I was really struck by the fact that Hale Farm, which is more of a historic site, also was led by a woman that, you know, is employing entrepreneurial principles. And I thought that was really interesting, because I think sometimes people think, you know, they think about business and engineering, but as you look into the ecosystem, it could be art, it could be history, as we've learned over these last few days here in Minneapolis, even seeing the George Floyd Memorial and meeting some of the people who are working to make that a conservation site. So Deb, is there anything as we sort of round out our time that you'd like to share about some of the projects that you've started, or some of the things that you might advise many of not only the hundreds of people who are with us here today, but the hundreds that are tuning in from, you know, 40 states and you know, so forth, as part of the Future Building Summit, just to share, just to inspire them to do this work as well?
Well, I can't say enough good things about doing this work. It's just very rewarding, you know, to be able to make good things happen in your community. And so the people, you know, who serve as ecosystem builders in communities, you know, get to have that experience on a regular basis. So, and I'm one of them. I love this, and I love connecting with entrepreneurs and learning about their ideas and helping them along the way. So, you know, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, it's really about that that proactive work on a regular basis, you know, to you know, keep people connected and thinking about what's going on in the larger community. And that includes people working on university and college campuses, building an ecosystem within the campus itself, making sure that, you know, people from different departments and aspects of the institution know what's going on, so they can support students and faculty in what they're doing, but never think about that as a silo. All of those people need to be reaching out into the community, so the assets are flowing both ways. Having your radar up all the time, just, you know, seeing what's going on. It can be exhausting at times, but it definitely pays off. Doing that, you know, that positive and proactive strategic networking every single day, everywhere you go, recognizing and not getting frustrated by this, but that an ecosystem is in a constant state of flux and evolution. So keeping up with it is really, really important, and watching it grow and morph is also really exciting. Hugely important here is being wildly inclusive in everything that you do, kind and generous and open all the time. I'm also a big believer that, you know, people who are doing this work gain lessons that are very valuable for other people to hear. So taking advantages of opportunities like this one we have today to share what you've learned with others. I'm just going to say collaborate. It's just extremely important in building a healthy ecosystem. I also think that entrepreneurs who benefit and are able to succeed with their business ideas have the opportunity to give back. And maybe all they need is some structure and some suggestion as to how they can do that. And then be able, you know, to give their resources, you know, maybe it's financial, maybe it's expertise, maybe it's mentorship, back to aspiring entrepreneurs in the community. I would say supporting the ecosystem builders, recognizing that there are people out there who give their all every day to do this work, and just giving them, you know, a little emotional support and pat on the back is a really good thing. And then celebrating the successes of those entrepreneurs and the ecosystem builders. I would like to refer people in the audience to the Ewing, Marion Kaufman publication, The Ecosystem Builders Playbook, which is available on their website. It's full of great tips and will give you a lot of background on what it means to be an ecosystem builder in your community.
That was wonderful, Deb. I'm so proud of the work that we do together. And I know one of our colleagues said relentless passion. And I think we share that along with many people in the room. You jump out of bed in the morning and you think, you know, who can I connect with today? Whose life can I make better? And you really said a few really important things about collaboration. That's what today is about. We have leaders, officials from the White House that are here, people like yourself, faculty members. And so, take the opportunity to connect with people that you wouldn't really have that opportunity to. I would also say for those who are here in person, NACCE has an innovation studio right on site. So go and experiment and collaborate with others. And if you're one of the virtual people, you can do that online with us as well. So I want to thank you so much for being here, Deb. It's just celebrating you as a leader, the work we do together as a person. And I agree with you, Kaufman is really leading the way with resources, the fact that they're sharing their own experiences and collaborating with all of us makes a big difference. So thank you so much. And I appreciate your wisdom, and we will carry on with our Future Building Summit.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that listening to this podcast will help you to explore the many ways we might define entrepreneurship. Join us every other Wednesday for more episodes as we celebrate opportunity, learn from one another, and grow together. Subscribe to this podcast, connect with us on social media, and learn more about today's speakers at nacce.com/podcast. We look forward to making our way forward together with you.
Have you heard about our latest book, Impact Ed? How Community College Entrepreneurship Creates Equity and Prosperity? This is our roadmap for building back better in 50 states and globally. In each chapter, we share the inspiring stories of everyday entrepreneurs and explain how community colleges play a crucial role in their success. Visit us at nacce.com/impacted to order your copy now and join us in this work.